everybody. It's Autumn here, and today I have a very special guest, and I'm excited to meet her. Let's get started. Go ahead and introduce yourself, if you will.
All right. Hi, I'm Lila. I am currently the UNM Miss Wisconsin teen. I'm from Madison, lived here my whole life, currently attend UW Madison.
Exciting. Well, very nice. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Of course. So, I have a couple questions for you about passion projects and the arts. So, first off, my passion projects has to do with arts advocacy. So, I'm curious to hear about the arts in your life.
Yeah, I grew up as a pianist and a dancer. So I started piano at about, I think I was 3 years old, and my preschool had a program. And since then, I was, consistently playing for until I hit about college, until I was about 17 or 18. And yeah, years I was competitive for a little bit, and yeah, that was my piano side. Loved it. And then dance. I have also danced since I was probably like 4 or 5. It's been in my life ever since. I was on my high school dance team after I did studio competitively for years. So I'm passionate just like you about the arts. I think it's something that taught me a lot about discipline, a lot of friendships, a lot of life experiences and life lessons that I really wouldn't have gotten anywhere else.
No, completely. Well, you just answered the question I was about to ask you. So you're on top of the game already. Well, that's super cool. What kinds of dance did you do?
Yeah, I loved ballet. That was my favorite. I always am going to be a ballerina at heart, but jazz, hip hop, tap, lyrical, modern. I remember my studio used to have summer intensives, and those worked you super hard. And you got to try a lot of different styles. They would bring in guest teachers. It was a lot of fun. And musical theater was one that I fell in love with, but I would only really do over the summers. Yeah, everything, all of the above. I did it all.
That's fantastic. You are very well versed in terms of dance, and I'm sure the same can be said for piano. I I don't know a lot about piano and piano competitions, but what kinds of things would you play? Which feels like a silly question, but please elaborate.
No, I get it. Something that I was very influenced on by my dad, actually. He is a super big jazz fanatic, hundreds of CDs, always heard it in the house growing up. So I really was just attuned to playing jazz. I liked classical and everything, kind of like dance. So mostly classical, some jazz, and especially for competitions, or they would have yearly festivals almost where you would go in and you would play for a judge and kind of get like a rating on it and see where you were at. Those were a lot of classical music, which is nice. I appreciate it. I think classics are always important.
No, definitely. It's like the fundamentals in ballet. They are
Right,
the same in my mind, at least.
right. I agree.
Do you have a favorite artist to play?
Oh, her name is Hiromi. She's actually a Japanese artist, but I always thought she was super cool. She would dress up really cool for her performances, and it was as a kid or as like a young teenager, you sometimes get bored of like the old piano styles or the old concerts, and you're like, okay, like let's pick up the pace. And I always thought she was really cool. So yeah, she'd be my favorite.
That's super neat. I'm going to ask you how to spell her name later.
Okay.
But we'll come back to that. So you said that both, in a way, taught you discipline, but can you elaborate more on what both piano and dance brought to your life individually?
Yeah, I'll give you an example of my schedule that might have looked like when I was in high school, and that kind of explains it. So I would go to school. I would have 2 hour practices 4 to 5 times a week. For dance, I'd come home, and then it would be like at least half an hour of practice on the piano to an hour. That was what was expected. And after that, it was homework and school, and then shower and eat. So it was just a lot of time management, a lot of motivation, a lot of work. And it's really where I learned that consistency is key. Reaching a goal has nothing to do with like the big steps. It's all of like the in between things that you do on a daily basis and that you're consistent with. So yeah, it taught me a lot about goal reaching, about determination. Like I don't think I would have learned that anywhere else. Yeah, so those two combined, sometimes it was hard to juggle, but it was very beneficial in the long run.
No, I definitely understand that. While I never did piano, I've done dance my whole life, similar to you,
I'm a
with
dancer.
or bonding.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So pretty much every style that you listed, but my dance studio didn't have summer intensives, which I wish they did, but that is beside the point.
Yep.
So I understand that and I relate to that kind of structure and that regimen that you just get used to. And I can see that it's helped you like grow and move forward and in every other aspect of life, such as pageantry. Now, with that being said, I'm very curious as to what caused you to join pageantry and when you did that.
Okay, so like any other story, a lot of the times the girls are super shy when they first start. And I'm just a testament to that story because I couldn't even order at a restaurant, like never talk to any strangers. It was super, super introverted, which I still am, but I'm a lot more passionate and confident and sure of myself and my goals. And so we got this letter in the mail from National American Miss, which is a very common youth organization. Got that letter in the mail. Typical story of like, I didn't even want to do it. I was like, what is this? My mom was even like, okay, whatever. You know, you really brush it off if you don't know what it's about. But my dad was the one to be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
You are totally fine. I had the same thing happen
Zoom calls.
yesterday. Yeah. You're fine. Please proceed.
Okay, so my dad, he was the one that was like, you know, maybe this could be good for you. Why don't you just try it out? Let's do some research, see what it's about. And
Dad?
Hooked ever since then. Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. So you started in the NAM system, which same. I did one NAM pageant whenever I was like 9 and I wanted to go back, but financially it couldn't work out. And then I ended up in the MOOT system because my friends talked me into it and now I'm here. So relatable.
That is cool. Oh my gosh. NAM will always be like near and dear to my heart. It was my first title. It was where I met so many of my first close friends. And every time I go back, I'm so nostalgic.
Mm-hmm. No, completely. Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you had that opportunity and that your dad, of all people, talked you into it.
I know. Every time I tell anybody that story, they're like, huh. Because it's a lot of times you hear it's like a great bonding experience for mother and daughter, and you know, moms are really into it, and which my mom totally is. But in the beginning, she was like, "What even is this?" And I was like, "What even is this?" But yeah, funny story.
No, that's super cool. Okay, so moving on from that, thank you for sharing that. I want to hear more about your passion project or your platform.
Sure. I have been a huge advocate of Asian American awareness, Asian American integration, culturally, all of that. And it started accidentally almost. Growing up, it was always like, I was either in Chinese dance groups where we would travel, go to libraries, go to different organizations and teach about our Chinese culture. We would have like zodiac stories, things like that. And it was like a dance performance, a cultural dance performance. And I did that for years growing up. And I kind of realized that like, that's where I'm happiest, that's where I'm most confident. And I think especially in light of recent events, this world needs it. And with Crown Cares for UNM, anti-bullying is a huge thing. And I think at a collegiate and college and being older, bullying can look different. It stems a lot from, you know, kids, elementary, but you learn so much about it when you're young. And then you get into college and people grow into themselves and it's not really talked about as much, but it still happens and it just takes a different form. So I've kind of grown my hobby into an interest into my passion, and it's something that I work on every day, even through social media. That's been so big, obviously, with everything going online, as we know, but that's something that I've been working on. I think social media is a great tool to reach a wide audience.
No, and I completely agree. Which social media platform do you use most often for that messaging?
Ooh, Instagram is always the easiest. I think it's the easiest to find people, to connect with people. I think people are very open on Instagram. One thing that I'm trying to get into, but I don't know if I'm like trendy enough to, is TikTok. Like I love it. I use it every day, but I haven't found a good way to use it as a platform yet. So I'm working on it. It's newer. I feel old. I'm like seeing my own, I'm like, what is going on? But
Same page. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm trying to figure that out. But so far, Instagram, so good. Facebook sometimes to reach some of like even the older audience, which as a journalism major, and I work for the newspaper on campus, but I'm always like a huge audience person and I love to reach like as many people as possible. So I have my array of platforms that I try my best on.
Well, very nice. Look at you go being all versatile. It's not just a dance. Shucks. So what college do you go to?
UW-Madison. I'm currently in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication and working on a second major in political science. So that's where I'm at going into junior year. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Fantastic work. I applaud you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What made you want to go that route?
Okay, so growing up, my mother's an immigrant from China, and all of her family is still there, and they've been there ever since she came. She was probably like 30 when she came, and she had me here. So all of her family is in China, and we would go back during. So I was lucky enough to be able to go back every summer and spend my summers there with my family, you know, in between school. And I just realized there's no Google. There's no public libraries. There's a lot of media censorship. And like as a 10-year-old going on the computer in China and being like, I can't even just like Google where like it's crazy. There's no public information like that. And I came back here and I was like, we have such a privilege. It's such a gift. And it's something that I think a lot of us take for granted here in the States, where we can open our computers and literally have any information that by typing something in, or even public libraries at schools is not a thing. So I really wanted to give back. I wanted to use my gift of I love to read, I love to write. So I'm like, it works. And so that's kind of how it started. And I've loved it ever since. Yeah.
That's super awesome. And yeah, I was aware that it was different, but I was never fully aware of how different and in what kinds of ways. So thank you and great work.
Of course. Thank you. This is what I love to do.
Well, I'm glad you do a great job.
Thanks.
Has there been a particular service or moment in your service within your platform that rings to be your favorite?
This is a good question.
Yeah, it is.
I'm trying to think through all the years. I'm like running through my head.
Yeah.
Okay, one that sticks out to me the most. I was pretty young. I was probably only about like 14, maybe 15. I don't even know if I had a title or anything, but it was again with the Chinese dance group. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to this like big convention, and we did like our normal performance. We did all that, and we came off the stage, and I'm expecting to just go backstage. I'm like, oh, get this costume off, like take my makeup off. Mm-hmm. And I had a mom and a little girl stop me. And they were like, we just wanted to say, and I'm like 14 at the time, like I'm still a kid. And they're like, we just wanted to say thanks. Like we had no idea, what this was even about. We obviously knew nothing about the Chinese culture going into it. Like it's not something you learn in schools. Like people don't go out and they're like, let me just Google that. Like it's not a thing. And so it comes with experiences, and they were just thanking me about the experience that they had. And I think that if I'm able to just open somebody's eyes and maybe they learn something new that day, that's I'm satisfied. That was my goal. So it was a small moment, but it definitely sticks out. And I think it was one of the first moments where I was like, oh, we're actually doing something here. And I think that's important.
No, that's beautiful. And I'm so happy that they stopped and that they let you know that. That seems like a very integral moment.
I appreciate it to this day. Yeah.
No, completely. Well, after asking that question and hearing that story, it feels silly to ask, but how has your life been impacted by your platform?
Oh, everything that I've said, I feel like just goes to show. I think the most important lesson I've learned is that I, too, still have a lot of growing to do and a lot of learning to do. And I think that if I want to be somebody that is an educator, whether that's through journalism or whether that's through pageantry, like I also need to keep learning and keep growing and be that person before I help other people. It's self-love. It's like you have to fill your own cup before you pour into others. And that's one thing that I've really, really learned throughout this process and throughout the years, I guess, with everything in life, that it's important to also continue to educate yourself and to even just continue to like put yourself first sometimes. And I think that just creates a better environment and you do a better job as whatever you want to do.
And I completely agree with that. And props to you for realizing that, because it's come to my attention that not a lot of people
Yeah.
understand that or are aware of that, and so often like plunge themselves into activities and think it'll be fine. Like, I'm just going to dedicate all of my time to this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's totally something that I've had to learn too. Like it's still a growing process. You know, there's still days where I struggle, and I think it's important to acknowledge that where it's gonna be a constant journey. I will never be at the end goal of this process. You know, like it's. I think it's important to realize that, like, yeah, like we both know that it's so important, but it's something that has to be thought about every day, and it's such a process. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because it's true. It's something that a lot of people, you know, continue to grow on every day. Yeah.
No, completely. And well, you said it is a process. What's your favorite way to go about educating yourself and preparing yourself for your own work?
Something that has come naturally, I guess, with school, and I'm writing for the newspaper, but my favorite way to educate myself is talking to other people. I think that human connection is, as we learned, so important, and it's something that is should be so valued. And being able to interview people like for news stories or for school projects, things like that, has been such a learning and growing experience. One of my favorite interviews that I did last summer was of a young lady who I think also went to UW. She's like our age, but she was a leader of the protests here in Madison with Black Lives Matter, the peaceful protests. And I was able to interview her. She was running for a district office position, and I'm like, you're like 19 and like you're doing this, girl, like pop up. But it was, yeah, it was really cool. And I was like, I never would have been able to just go, as much as I rave about like, oh my gosh, information online, I wouldn't have been able to Google that. You know, that's something that I never would have learned, but other than talking to this person. And so that's a really cool way, and I think that's an important way to educate yourself.
I completely agree with that too. I like you. You're fun.
Yeah. I like you too. This is really fun. It's nice to be able to like meet new people coming out of this because I feel like it's just we've been so stuck, and now finally we're seeing like change with our environment and, you know, things that are happening. Hopefully it looks like things are getting there to normal. But yeah, it's just nice to be able to meet somebody new and see a new face, and you're so cute, and this is fun.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I completely agree. Again, that's not like the third time I've said this. That's a very agreeable person. Um, well, I think I only have one more question for you,
Okay.
unless I remember something else, and then don't quote me on it. But how would you recommend that someone discover their passion or find a way to serve in their community when they don't really know where to start?
Oh, okay. I wish somebody would have told me this. And it's something that I had to figure out on my own. But something that I realized, at least, that really worked for me was figure out what you think about every day. And I think that is what your passion is. Whether you know it's dance or piano, or whether it's writing or reading, find something that you naturally are drawn to daily. And I think that that's your passion, and wherever that takes you, whatever that goal, you know, if your passion is dance, maybe in pageantry your platform becomes like a dance platform and you teach young kids, or however you want to do that. I think finding that niche that you have every day of something that you want to do, it'll grow. You'll be able to figure it out from there, kind of what you want to do and how you want to help people. But yeah, something that, and it'll be easier for you to really hone into it and put work into your passion and grow it because you want to do it every day anyways. So that's something that I learned the hard way. I always, I'll be honest, I was always like thinking about, you know, what is the best thing for me, or like what would make the most other people the most happy, or you know, as many other people as happier. And I'm like, no, like it can just be something that I like to do. It doesn't have to be cool. It doesn't have to be, you know, acceptable. Like it's just whatever makes me happy. And yeah, I think that's your everybody has such a unique array of gifts. And I think that it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Like everybody has something so different to offer. And so being able to just take your quirky side or take something that you like to do and just do it. And it grows. It comes from there. That was a super long-winded thing to say, but yes.
Well, you got every point across. I loved it. And you're right. It's such a difficult lesson to learn growing up that we're all different and it's okay to not do the same things that your friends do. And your passion might be right in front of you and you just have no idea because you're so used to seeing, okay, well, this person is fighting for the hungry and this person is doing something else super huge and I don't have any stories to relate to that. And but no, I completely agree with you. It should be what you think about every day. And I've never thought of it that way. So I appreciate you kind of opening me up to that perspective because honestly, that makes it a lot easier.
Right. Right. It's not something that you feel like you have to force. It's not something that you feel like you need to put in a lot of work in. The work just comes natural. It's something that it, and I think that's the definition of passion. You know, people try so hard to fit this definition of like, oh, this is my passion. Like this is what I love to do. But like, it really doesn't have to be like somebody's passion could literally be cooking breakfast. Like, you know, it's just it doesn't have to be all that. You know.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
respect that a whole lot, especially if they open like their own little cafe. Go there
Right.
every day. Do not tempt me.
Exactly. Yeah. I know, I agree.
Well, that's spectacular. Thank you so much again for your time. Don't leave the Zoom yet.
Oh, no. No, no, no. I
Recording.
got it.
So thank you all for watching so much. I appreciate your time and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. I really had so much fun.